Hello everybody and welcome to another new player guide, the series where I take a hero, I look at every card in their hero pack, I look at their obligation and their nemesis kit to try to understand what it is that this character brings to Marvel Champions and what they have to go up against, you know, both within the weaknesses of their kit and the inherent danger of their encounter set. Additionally, we also look at an example deck wedged in between all of that, but let's not waste any time. Today we are talking about Cindy Moon, aka Silk, and she is a character that is unfortunately kind of the right place, wrong time in some ways, because she is currently in a era where there are not really a lot of web warriors, and she's a web warrior. But we'll get into kind of the nitty-gritty of what that means as we are making our way through her kit. Let's start out right off the bat with her alter ego and hero. We have Cindy Moon, a 3 recovery alter ego with the genius trait, and text of, if there is more than 4 cards tucked here, discard all but 4 of those cards, and an action of discard a card tucked here, draw 2 cards, limit once per round, 6 hand size, 10 hit points. I have put in probably a dozen to, I don't know if I've done 24 games with Cindy Moon. Usually I've watched if we include all the games I've seen other people play it, then I think we do probably crack 24. But with that number in mind, I don't know that I've ever hit a point where the 4 tucked cards needed to be discarded down to. So that's actually text on here that is good. I think that it would be a completely different hero that kind of needs to get reined in if she could just have 15 cards underneath her. You'd have almost no incentive to use the cards up. That said, part of the reason is because I do wholeheartedly think the action on her of, you know, discard a card tucked here, draw 2 cards is very powerful, and it's something that I will generally use at least 2 or 3 times in a game because it's just advantageous. You will probably not get to use this until turn, I guess maybe late turn 2, but like turn 3. It's something that you just have to play around. You kind of are basing your opening hand on being able to turn this on efficiently. We'll get into exactly how you tuck a card and what that exactly means. Well, I guess right now, because we're getting into it. So Silk is a 1 thwart, 2 attack, 3 defense hero with the web warrior trait. She has 5 hand size, 10 hit points, and the text of, if there are more than 4 cards here, or if there are more than 4 cards tucked here, discard all but 4 of those cards. We all know that text. Importantly, and I didn't point this out on Cindy's side, and I made this misreading when I was first evaluating the card. It's you hit 5 cards, you discard down to 4. Not you discard all of them, you discard down to 4. Pretty straightforward if you have remedial ability to read. That's not a big stretch. That's just something that I made the mistake of. I kind of just like skimmed it and just kind of assumed that I knew what it was going to say, and that's not true. But then the Silk Sense, which is an ability that is a responsibility of, after you defeat a minion or side scheme or resolve a treachery card, tuck that card under here with the tuck that card here from the encounter discard pile. The important thing here is that this does not interact in the way you'd probably like with Victory, because Victory puts it immediately out of play. It never goes to the encounter discard pile. That said, this is a very powerful ability, and if you have the, especially in scenarios where you start with a minion in play, you know, Claw, Mutagen Formula, if memory serves, the Morlock Siege one, I think, starts with a Marauder in play. These come along at least once in every campaign box, so you have ample chance to use this. You probably are going to get a solid use out of this. The thing here is just that it's a strong ability that I will say that I have to remember. Defeating a minion, not a big deal. Defeating a side scheme, we will get into how she will defeat side schemes. I think she actually can be very good at defeating side schemes. At a base with her 1 thwart, she's probably not going to do that too often. It's kind of like Winter Soldier, where you sort of want to put things into Winter Soldier range so that he can deal that 2 damage and remove threat from a scheme. You want to put side schemes, minions into that range where Silk can take care of them, wrap them up. But the one that always catches me is resolving a treachery card. It's easy to back up and check off that box, but it's definitely one where you get dealt a treachery card and then you just immediately put it into the discard pile, and then you suddenly go back, you move it back under her, you tuck it under her. And at its basis, tuck is just basically that you put a card, you just, whatever it is, you put the card under it, and it is there. And there are some properties of it, I suppose you're probably, you're putting them under their face up so that you know what they are. The important thing here is that Silk really cares about encounter sets. We will get into, how that all interacts pretty quick here, but she basically cares about what encounter sets are in a scenario. The hood is probably going to be more difficult for her. Something like Sandman, I can say, is actually pretty kosher for her. That's the one that I did most recently. Most recently I played it against Enchantress, but for my testing to kind of remind myself of just how she plays, I played against Sandman. Sandman is a pretty good villain to go up against. She generally grabs those scenarios, generally interacts with those scenarios pretty well. Like I said, she's not too great at thwarting. She's decent at attacking, and defense is very good. These things can all be augmented. We'll talk about all that in just a moment. But yes, I think she's a fun hero, but I think she's more challenging than I thought she was when I first sunk my teeth in. And I have gone on for a long time talking about this hero. Let's move into her encounter set. But real quickly, let's talk about some recommendations, because if you enjoy this kind of content, I think you're really going to enjoy some of the other content creators out there. If you enjoy our future discussion about Nemesis kits and encounter cards, go listen to Critical Encounters. They cover everything. They are currently making their way through the Age of Apocalypse wave, but they have done a deep dive into so much lore and so much of the encounter cards. Additionally, if you just enjoy listening to discussions about cards, go listen to The Winning Hand. He also, the main host, Boom Guy, also hosts a podcast on the same YouTube channel about just building decks, and they're also available in most podcast places as well. And then if you're looking for gameplay, go check out Rey Plays Games and Solo Marvel Champion along with Charred Gambit. And then MC Deck Discussions does some deep critical thinking about the game and deck building in ways that I just don't have the fortitude or capacity to do. So if you enjoy any of this content, go check out these other channels. They are great. And let's get into the remainder of the hero pack. So right off the bat, we have 3 copies of Swinging Silk Kick. It is a 3-cost event, aerial attack superpower traded. Cost 3. I don't know if I said that. It costs 3. Hero action with the attack trait. Deal 7 damage to an enemy. You may discard a card tucked under Silk from the same encounter set as that enemy. If you do, this attack deals 2 additional damage and gains overkill. This proves to be a very good card. It's very similar to other big attacks that other heroes have. This is, you start to think about how you defeat the final stage of villain based on how many Swinging Silk Kicks you can pull out. How many is that? Okay, this is going to be 14. Okay, so that's 2 Silk Kicks, even at a base. 18. Okay, so now I need to do the kicked version of the Swinging Silk Kick. It's all well and good. I really enjoy this card, and I would say the only thing that sets me back is just making sure that I basically use my 2 attack. Sometimes it's 3, sometimes it's 6. My base attack to make sure that I defeat a minion so the Swinging Silk Kick can kind of do what it's going to do. The bonus here is that, let's say you just don't have the ability to give this the +2 damage and overkill. If you happen to defeat a minion with this, you can tuck it under there, which means that in the ideal world, you're going to have an encounter set. You're going to match those 2 up. You're going to do the overkill damage, but then when you defeat that minion, you basically replace the card that you had tucked under there with the minion you just defeated. All well and good. That is actually really it's smooth as silk. It is a very appealing game plan. It is very appealing kind of just way to make your way through a turn. I like this card. I think it's perfectly costed. I think it's perfectly set up. There's really nothing to complain about here, because even if you're just dealing 7, you're probably going to be putting a card under here or under your hero, which means that you're going to be able to tuck that card. You're going to be able to do stuff with it. You're going to be able to interact well with the rest of the game. This is a great card to have on the first turn. The next card we'll talk about is probably a card that I definitely want to try to have in my opening hand because it sets me up really well, but this also does a really good job of handling that minion that the scenario put into play immediately, and also allows you to set up and start doing your gimmick. And actually, now that I start to think about it, I would even say that I haven't tested this out, but I imagine she does really well with the new stuff coming out of Winter Soldier, where you are summoning out minions out of the encounter deck, and yeah, you're just able to take advantage of that. And I think she actually, for as much as I said that she is kind of in the wrong place, wrong time, or right place, wrong time for the Web Warrior trait, she is the lone Web Warrior hero. The cards that come in her pack are the lone Web Warrior cards that are currently available. So if you are just working with a smaller card pool, this is all you have to work with. She does actually work really well with the things that came out of the Black Panther pack. I think she works really well. In theory, I think she works really well with the stuff that came out of the Winter Soldier pack. The connective tissue of Silk, I think, really works really well within the wave. It's just unfortunate that she doesn't interact very well with the Web Warrior part, just in terms of that smaller card pool. But let's move on to the next card, which is 2 copies of Smooth as Silk, a 0-cost event, hero action. Choose an enemy or scheme in play. The good news is there's always a villain and there is always a main scheme. Discard cards from the top of the encounter deck until a card from the same encounter set. As the chosen card is discarded, tuck discarded card under Silk. So the nice thing here is this is the card that I want to just hard mulligan for. I want to be able to set it up so that I'm always able to do whatever I need to do. I'm set up against the villain. If that means that I am doing Smooth as Silk against the villain, if I'm doing it against a minion in play, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day. If you start to get into really mixed pools of cards, this can be really helpful because let's just say that you have a encounter set that is made up entirely of minions. So this way, like the Morlock Siege out of the Next Evolution box, there's an entire encounter set that is just Marauders. And if you can basically get one Marauder in front of you and then go grab another one, tuck it, first of all, you're not going to hit that minion you just tucked, but also that way you have a way to interact with that encounter set. That is the difficult part. If you're not trying to interact with the actual villain scenario card, it can be very difficult to deal with that. And actually, now that's how to think about it, the Morlock Siege and On the Run, again, out of Next Evolution, I'm pretty sure that the villains in that pack are their own encounter set. So the actual scenario itself is separate, which makes it, I might actually want to try Silk against those just to see how she works, but I might be overvaluing this card. I think this is a fantastic card. I think that this sets the tempo for the rest of the game, makes it so that you are doing your thing, and I might be overvaluing it. It's entirely possible. I think this is a great card, and you should definitely consider getting it into play whenever possible. Then we have 2 copies of Wallcrawl, a 1-cost event superpower thwart traded with the hero action thwart. Remove 2 threat from a scheme. Choose a scheme. You may discard a card tucked under Silk from the same encounter set as the chosen scheme to remove 3 threat from the chosen scheme. This is super helpful. Again, Smooth as Silk into Wallcrawl on the main scheme can be very potent. This is also just really good because let's just say the main scheme is pretty low, but you have the ability to match a different encounter set in play, or maybe there's a side scheme in play that's part of the scenario. I think this came up against Enchantress when I played it last week. But yeah, just overall, this is, I think, is a fairly decent card. It only costs 1. If you're only removing 2 threat, it's middling at best, I suppose. But if you get to kind of do all parts of this, you get to remove 5 threat from a total of 1 or 2 schemes, all the better. I think this is a fun card. It's not the card that I would be necessarily championing, but it is. I think it's pretty good. Keep it in mind. It helps because she has such a low thwarting, but this is the way that she can definitely defeat a side scheme and tuck it under her really easily. Again, I think it's another part that is an interaction that I might have failed at. I think when I was playing against Enchantress, it was a 2-player game, and I don't think I thought far enough ahead to say, hey, you get this side scheme into range so that I can take it out, so that I can tuck it under Silk. Silk is definitely a character that will get you outside of your bubble, will make you, one, think forward, but also think how about how she interacts with the entire table. I would say the same thing about Winter Soldier, and I probably will say the same thing about Winter Soldier in a few weeks when I cover him. Moving on to some singleton cards, and we are going to be going through her cards about how you make her stats better. Let's start with Spider Reflexes, a 2-cost upgrade, superpower traded, Hero Interrupt. When Silk defends, exhaust Spider Reflexes. For this attack, she gets +1 defense for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the attacking enemy. After this attack, tuck the top card of the encounter discard pile under Silk. So this is super nice because you get to grab that boost card. Generally, you get to grab the boost card and get it tucked under. This is something that, especially in perfect defense kind of style decks, you can just have your defense be 4 or 5 to completely negate an attack, and then you get to do something like stop hitting yourself, and suddenly you get to take advantage of that 5 or 6 defense and just smack the villain, or you take out a really problematic minion really easily. This is great. As we talk about each of these cards, as we're going through them, the ones that I've kind of earmarked as these help you to define or to empower a certain stat. If you are playing a protection deck, or just a deck that really cares about that defense, you're going to be able to defend, but you're going to be able to ready back up somehow, which is probably going to be in the defense deck. I want to say that there's probably a leadership archetype like that. Nothing's coming to mind. I feel like you're writing up minions. I don't think. Well, we could go on and on. I'm pretty sure there probably. There's probably is a way that you can ready up a web warrior. Like I guess Peter Parker Spider-Man, but either way, you have a way to take advantage of that. If you care about defense, this is going to be the upgrade you're going to dig for. If you care about attack, you're going to be digging for Spider Claws, a 2-cost upgrade, weapon traded. Hero Interrupt. When Silk makes a basic attack, exhaust Spider Claws. For this attack, she gets +1 attack for each card tucked under her from the same encounter set as the attacked enemy. This attack gains piercing. So I was in a protection deck going up against Sandman, and definitely took advantage of Spider Reflexes. By the end of the game, this was just swing for 5. Once on a turn, just swing for 5, because 3 of the cards tucked under Silk were linked to the Sandman encounter set. And this is a great late game card. If you are in aggression, if you're in a archetype that allows you to ready Silk back up, this can be a great card for if you are the beatdown, if you are the person who is making all the attacks. This can be a very powerful card. And I think it can be a very powerful card across most games because, like I said, late game, this is exactly what you need. You just need the ability to start doling out damage. Early game, not going to be as good, but in an aggression deck, maybe it is going to be good because you're minion summoning, you're bringing minions into play, you're taking them out, you're tucking them under, and then all of a sudden you find yourself turning towards the villain and going, hey, I've taken all of your goblins. Guess what, Norman? It's time to brawl. And you can just go to town. Great card. I enjoy it so much, and I don't think I valued it enough when I first started playing. Then we've got the thwarting part of this cycle, which is Outwit, a 2-cost upgrade. Skill, Hero Interrupt. When Silk makes a basic thwart, exhaust Outwit. For this thwart, she gets +1 thwart for each card tucked under her with the same encounter set as the thwarted scheme. And let me just see. So obviously, yeah, we talked about how Spider Reflexes, Reflexes grabs the top card of the encounter deck discard pile. The other ones don't really do the same. I suppose you get piercing here, and this is just super strong. But this, I think, is just great because it takes that one thwart and makes it a meaningful number. And we'll even talk about. She actually has a great kit for just making her thwart very good. But this is great in the fact that if you are in the role of the justice, stereotypical archetype, or there's probably, once again, there's probably, in all the aspects, there's probably a way that she can be the thwarter if it really comes to it. This is great because you start to take out the side schemes, and that you just start to get a lot of momentum, because all of a sudden you take out one side scheme here, you tuck it under, and suddenly you get that much more thwarting towards the main scheme, or towards a like against Red Skull. You have a lot of side schemes in that scenario, and maybe if you've done encounter sets that also have side schemes, suddenly you have a great way to like basically make yourself protected from the gimmick of that scenario, hopefully in a meaningful way. And yeah, just overall, I enjoy this card. I enjoy a lot of the cards. Again, I will even say Silk is definitely one of those heroes that can kind of do a little bit of a brain bleed for me, because she is very thought intensive, and so I haven't played her as much as I thought I was going to, only because she really makes you think, and I appreciate that about her. I would much rather a character that makes me think than a character that's just on rails. But the set of these 3 cards that all help different stats definitely are archetype dependent, but they will pay dividends. Additionally, Silk also comes with Organic Webbing, which is a 2-cost upgrade superpower. This just gives Silk +1 thwart, and then has a hero action of exhaust Organic Webbing and discard a card tucked under Silk, ready Silk. So this makes it so that you can definitely get it as much advantage as possible. Oh, and additionally, you gain the aerial trait until the end of the round. That can be a little bit hard to build around, but I have definitely looked at decks that were trying to do that, and I have not tried them out. I guess I think I did a leadership deck that cared about the aerial trait, and I kind of remember being so. That's not what this video is about. The fact that this just gives you +1 thwart makes it so that you have 2 basic thwart. Before you even start doing Outwit shenanigans, you are at least able to, in single player, keep up with the main scheme for the most part, and that's just very valuable. And yeah, the ability to ready back up at the cost of discarding a card tucked under Silk. Maybe you're about to get to 4. Maybe there's a encounter card that just, it's not really going to do you any good. Just get rid of it, ready back up, make another attack. It won't be supersized, but at least it's another attack, or make another thwart. What have you. Fun card, maybe not the first card I think about, but definitely a card that is helpful. Then we've got Eidetic Memory, which is maybe one of the best cards in her encounter, or in her kit. I think I'm overselling it. I think this card is not as good as I wanted to believe it was, but I think it's still it's my favorite card, I think. But a 1-cost upgrade, Eidetic Memory, superpower traded, interrupt when you reveal a card from the same encounter set as a card tucked under your identity, exhaust Eidetic Memory, swap those cards, reveal that card that had been tucked under Silk instead. So this is just a way to, you grab, I don't know if you necessarily want it, but let's just say you grab Caught Off Guard and you swap it when you see Shadow of the Past. Okay, so I'm losing an upgrade, but at least I'm not bringing my Nemesis in. This is definitely a reason why, if you have the ability to, you don't have much of any way to do a lot of fishing for, the standard encounter set. But if you can luck yourself in to grabbing a standard, whatever standard version you're playing, if you have a way to grab that so that you have protection against Shadow of the Past, all the better. And there is a way within this wave, I believe it's out of the Nick Fury deck, there's just a card that allows you to look at all of the encounter cards that have been dealt to everybody and shuffle them around as you see fit. If you have a way to basically grab a standard card in a multiplayer game just so that you have protection against Shadow of the Past, that's really cool. And just that interaction, that level of thinking is just so much fun, and being able to basically say like, hey, I'm running up against the scenario. The classic one that I think a lot of people will think about is like, you just have a really problematic minion in the scenario and you just swap it out with a minion that doesn't do anything like really that offensive. Maybe it has quick strike, or maybe it's just like, I guess maybe it has a defeated trigger, but it's so much better than having to deal with this problematic minion. And yeah, just overall, I think this card's really fun, and it's what really brings Silk to life for me. Then we've got Albert Moon, a 2-cost support, persona traded, alter ego action, exhaust Albert Moon, choose to either tuck the top card of the encounter deck under Cindy Moon. That can be really good. Or heal 1 damage from Cindy Moon for each card tucked under her. That can also be very good. This can be, this is actually such a better, well-rounded card than I think I thought it was when I first was looking at Silk, because being able to just tuck a card under her, that can, you're already an alter ego, so that means maybe you tuck a card, maybe you draw 2 cards off of that. This is the only way I think on the first turn that you can tuck a card under Cindy and then immediately push it out to draw 2 cards. But then on the flip side, if you have 4 cards under her, suddenly you can, she's got 10 health, she's got the 3 recovery, but this can just be, maybe you're making a recovery for 7. Maybe you're just making a recovery for 4 off the cards that he hasn't under her. You use him to recover for 4. You don't have to bother exhausting. You can flip back over, do what you're going to do. This actually, like I said, this is such a better card than I thought it was. When I was first reading it, I was like, I just don't know if I'm going to get much use out of it. And to be fair, I don't get a terrible amount of use out of it, but I certainly get more use out of it than I thought I was going to. Then we got the big man on campus, Jonah Jameson, a 3-cost support, persona traded as well. Alter ego action, exhaust this card, search your deck and discard pile for get the scoop and put it into play. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And then it has an action of exhaust this card, remove 2 threat from a side scheme. I have definitely used this to just take out a problematic side scheme. I know this came up during Enchantress. We were sitting there doing the math, and I was like, oh, I can just drop Jonah, exhaust him, and we can put it in range to get rid of whatever it was. I think it was the side scheme in Enchantress that makes this so that damage can't be dealt to Enchantress, if memory serves. Either way, just this is a fun card. We'll get into get the scoop real quick. That's not necessarily the one that I'll always do, but the fact that just as an action I can exhaust this or remove 2 threat, even when I'm in hero form, that makes up for the fact that she has 1 thwart. This is a card that I think if you have it in your opening hand, you might not mulligan it away, because it might actually do so much work for you in the long run that it pays off. And it doesn't. I would say that at a base, I don't know that I thought that this was going to be a card that I would have that high of praise for, but I do. I think it is a good card. I think it plays well, and I think it's head and shoulders better than I thought it was. I think I probably thought it was a 4 out of 10, maybe a 5 out of 10 card, and I think it's closer to like 7 out of 10. Maybe even 8 out of 10, but yeah, maybe I'm overselling it. Maybe people are gonna look at it and be like, I don't know, what are you smoking, man? This isn't that good. But Jonah Jameson lives up to the name. And last but not least, we have her side scheme, her player side scheme. Get the scoop, a 0-cost side scheme. Comes in with 4 threat on it, and alter ego action, exhaust your identity, remove 2 threat from here. Any player may trigger this ability, and when defeated, the Cindy Moon player looks at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck and tucks one of those under her identity. I don't get a lot of use out of this, and I think part of it comes down to the fact that she doesn't thwart well, and I don't know that I've ever had this in my opening hand or mulliganed into it. In the 12 to 15 games that I've played with Silk, I just don't think that that's come up. And I think that might be the most opportune time, is right away in the opening. You can kind of slug off the first turn and just say, I'm going to put this into play, I'm going to exhaust Cindy, I'm going to remove 2 threat from here, and I'm just going to have it set up to be at 2. Maybe I will Wallcrawl or something at some point, but it just doesn't come up. I guess the nice thing here is that you can then tuck it under, Silk, and it's just a nice card that you can later just discard to her action ability, because you're not going to be using it for it's not going to match any of the encounter sets. But either way, I don't love this card. At the same time, it's probably better than I'm playing it off to be. It's just one that I've never gotten any use out of. So it just has not ever had a chance to impress me, unfortunately. But let's go talk about the example deck that I have for you using just Core Set and the wave that Silk came out of. And here we are talking about the example deck for Silk. This is a deck that I built using only the core. This is a deck that I built using only the Core Set and the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. wave. get the general scheme for what she's doing. I think she works really well in protection, but I actually questioned as I was starting to put everything together, as I voiced during the rest of the review, I do have to question if maybe Winter Soldier might have been another good pack to start mining out of and go in the direction of aggression. But I think that she has an interesting interaction with the justice aspect that I want to try to highlight here. This is sort of a silk shield traded deck to some extent, and let's go through the cards outside of her kit to just kind of talk about my general thoughts of what I was going for here. So right off the bat, we've got Agent Coulson. He is a ally out of the justice aspect that costs 3, has 1 attack, 2 thwart, 3 health, and it has the shield and spy trait. And a response of, after Agent Coulson enters play, search your deck and discard pile for a preparation card, add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. He is important because there are going to be preparations in our deck that this is just a way to grab whichever one is most important to us in any given moment. He also has the shield trait, which will come into play to some extent. And that was really kind of the tension of making this deck, was trying to get just enough shield cards into the deck so that the parts of the game that care about that, the parts of the deck that care about that, were going to be relevant. For the most part, he's probably a good shield, literally a good meat shield, but also just a good way to keep him around, come down, get that preparation, and have him there to possibly be the card that is going to be activating whatever shield adjacent cards that we have. And that's kind of the general purpose of him, was to use that shield trait to the best of my ability. Then we've got Madam Web. She's a new card out of the Silk Pack. She's a 3-cost basic ally, 2 thwart, 1 attack, 2 health. Web Warrior, one of the few Web Warriors. Response, after Madam Web enters play, look at the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the number of Web Warrior cards you control. Good thing our hero already is that. You may discard 1 card looked at this way and put the rest back in any order. So this is doing you double duty. This is giving you a way to hopefully look at 2, maybe 3 cards. I think that's probably the cap, because I was very unhappy to discover that Web of Life and Destiny is not actually legal in the card pool that I had. But either way, this is just a nice way to look at 2, maybe 3 cards, get rid of 1, and then that you can also set up the top card of your deck, which is going to be important to some of the other cards in the deck. If not, if that part does not jive with what you're currently doing, you just know what your boost card is going to be. That can be very helpful. Get rid of a card you don't care about, set up the boost card. If you happen to have a confuse or stun on something, then you know that this is going to be your encounter card. As I say about Silk, she is a character that makes you think forward. This is a card that helps you do that, helps you set up the game and the turns the way you need them to go. Then we've got Melinda May, basic ally for 4, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health, shield and spy traded again. Response, after Melinda May uses a basic power, look at the top card of the encounter deck. You may discard that card. So this can be a 1-2 punch with Madam Web. You get Madam Web out, you look at the top 2 cards, you ditch one of them, and Melinda May can just ditch the other one. Additionally, just another way to know the top card that's going to come into play. Actually, it's going to kind of come into play on the next card, I believe. More of that top deck, know the top card of the encounter deck manipulation, whatever have you. Take advantage of that to the best of your ability. And if you need to, just discard it because it's something you don't want to have to deal with. Then we've got Misty Knight, who was the card that I think drove the direction of this deck more than I even care to admit. So she is out of the Falcon Pack. She's a 4-cost Justice ally, ward, 1 attack, 3 health, interrupt, Heroes for Hire trait, an interrupt of when Misty Knight thwarts, look at the top 2 cards of the encounter deck, discard one of those cards. Misty Knight gets +1 thwart for each icon, whether that be star or boost, in the discarded card's boost area. Once again, comboing off of Madam Web. Madam Web looks at X amount of cards, you can set up the top card, and then at least Misty Knight is going to, at least one of the 2 cards. Maybe you know both. Maybe you looked at 3 cards. But Misty Knight, what she's going to be. The top card so that you can take advantage of that to make her thwart as strong as possible. Melinda May does the same thing. She's looking, she's letting you know what that top card is. Just if you have any way of knowing the top card in the counter deck, Misty Knight is going to do great things for you because it's just going to take some of the guesswork out. And yeah, just overall, like I said, she drove the direction of this deck in a way that I don't think I was prepared for. We've got Nick Fury out of the core set. And yeah, he 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health, spy, shield traits. Forced response. After Nick Fury enters play, choose 1, remove 2 threat from a scheme, draw 3 cards, deal 4 damage to an enemy. At the end of the round, if Nick Fury is still in play, discard him. We all know what he does. The thing is, he's got the shield trait, which is something that we're going to try to be taking advantage of. He removes 2 threat. With his enter his play, he's got 2 thwart immediately. So he's answering that weakness of just baseline Silk. And then the other options, I mean, if you've played the game enough, you know what the core set Nick Fury is capable of and why he is helpful. There's not much more to say. He's just... I do care about that shield trait, though. That is going to come into play in just a moment. Then, because we just can't get enough shield, we've got Nick Fury Sr. Again, 4 cost, 2 thwart, 2 attack, 3 health, shield, and soldier traded. And force response of, when he enters play, choose 1, remove 3 threat from a scheme, draw 2 cards, or give a shield character a tough status card. This can be helpful because we do want to keep our shield characters alive as much as possible. And then at the end of the round, if Nick Fury Sr. is still in play, discard him. So he's just a good chump blocker. But I'd say for the most part, I like all 3 of these options. Obviously, the give a shield character a tough status card is going to be situational. But hey, remove 3 threat, draw 2 cards, what have you. Have a great time. But yeah, again, just trying to get up that what's it called? That saturation of shield cards to make the best of it. And rounding out our allies is Peter Parker Spider-Man, 2 attack, 2 thwart, 3 health. And responsibility of, after Spider-Man attacks or thwarts, choose another Web Warrior character, ready that character. So this is a good way to let Silk make that big defense. She's got a nice big defense stat. You can make it even better. And Spider-Man, Peter Parker can just help to ready her back up. And yeah, the requirement is a little difficult. I would say, let me just look at the splits again. I'm actually pretty evenly split. Obviously, hitting the energy is going to be a little bit more difficult, but it is entirely possible that you will be able to hit this. But yeah, it is a consideration. And I don't have a good way to cheat him into play, just within the smaller card pool, but just in terms of being a Web Warrior, helping out Madam Web, helping out Cindy Moon, all good. And yeah, he's just going to take a little bit of forethought to get him where he needs to be. Moving into the events, we have Global Logistics, which is a zero cost event with the shield and tactic traits. Action, exhaust 1 shield card you control, which is why we care about those allies. Look at the top 4 cards of a player deck or the encounter deck. Discard any number of those cards and put the others on the top and or bottom of that deck in any order. So again, this is just a good way to make Misty Knight even better. You exhaust your Agent Coulson, look at the top 4, get rid of what you don't need, put the top card on there that's going to help out Misty Knight the most. Without the Misty Knight context, it's just another way to set up your boost and your encounter card if you need to. Just get rid of the cards you don't want to see. And also, additionally, this is a good way to do enough forethought and you can set up exactly what is going to get tucked under Silk. You see a minion, you go, I can defeat that minion pretty easily, make that my boost card, get the cards tucked under Silk to its maximum. Maybe you see a side scheme that's going to be pretty easy for you to handle. Yeah, just planning out your turn. Global Logistics is going to help with that, and that's why I think this is a pretty strong deck. Got Quick Quip, 2 cost event, Justice, obviously, skill traded, got a requirement of a Genius resource, and hero action of deal 1 damage to a Web Warrior character you control. Place a total of 2 confused status cards on up to 2 enemies. So this is a good way to handle a steady villain, or I guess even a steady minion if they happen to come up. Or this is just a good way to confuse and go back down and then allow you to go down to Alter Ego pretty easily. Throw out 2 confused statuses, get the villain confused, get a minion confused. You don't even need to worry about it. You get a free turn. And that means that this is a way to make it so that that encounter card that you have lined up can be your encounter card. But other than that, yeah, I just think it's a fun card, and I think it's really good out of Silk, and it's good for what we're trying to do here. Moving on, then we've got the basic resources. We've got the supports we've already talked about. Going into the upgrades, we've got Heroic Intervention, 2 cost upgrade. Skill, we got out of the core set. We all know what this is. Play under any player's control, max 1 per player. This is one where I would probably go up to 42 cards if I was playing in multiplayer. At least give one other person some additional thwart. But yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of danced around this. Your hero gets +1 thwart. We already know what this card does. If you've played enough with the core set, you're aware of this card, and I think it helps to put Cindy. It acts as another copy of Organic Webbing, but then just helping her to get to that 2 thwart I think is so important, because 1 is so underwhelming and you can't survive off that. And if you're the Justice deck, you definitely want to bump up your thwart, which means that your ability to do Organic Webbing and Outwit are only going to be empowered by your Heroic Intervention or Heroic Intuition. We got Informant, which I thought was out of the Black Panther pack. But this is a 1 cost preparation upgrade, max 1 per player. When a minion schemes, discard Informant. That activation, this activation removes threat instead of placing it. So this is just nice. You're already going to be an alter ego. Why not make it so that when the minion schemes, instead they're removing threat? Just great. It's a preparation. You can go grab it with Coulson. Interacts again with a card we'll be talking about in just a second. But yeah, I think I had 2 copies of that. Oh no, this was the one that I had 3 copies of. So yeah, I think this is a really good card. I think that it takes scenarios where you're going to threat out and just saves you. You don't realize how much, instead of adding 1, taking 1 off, that can shift the game so much. And I was really under appreciating that until I really started to put my nose to the grindstone with Informant. Then we've got Practiced Plan, a 0 cost preparation, max 1 per player. Response: after you discard a preparation card you control, discard Practice Plan, return that card to your hand from the discard pile. So this is just a good way to have, I think there's 2 copies in the deck. Yes, there's 2 copies, so they act as 4th and 5th copies of Informant. They act as 3rd and 4th copies of the other preparations. It's just nice because it is just another card you have to play, but it is a good way to, if you need to, you just have an extra thing in play. It also is nice because if you happen to hit a caught off guard, it's an upgrade you don't mind losing because you were already going to be losing it anyway. Then we've got 2 copies of Prism Dust, a 1 cost upgrade, max 1 per player, and after a minion enters play, discard Prism Dust, confuse that enemy, and deal 2 damage. So this is just nice. It acts as another copy of Quick Quip, but in this case, you're not dealing any damage to yourself. And in the right scenario, it just makes this so that you can, go to alter ego without having to worry about a minion that came into play. Maybe that 2 damage was enough to take him out, so it can do double duty. All the better. And oh yeah, the last thing is 2 copies of Under Surveillance. I only have that because I'm building these decks as the thought of being a single player experience. And if I'm going to be playing single player, I'm going to be playing Under Surveillance. And I think I'm going to put 2 copies in so that I definitely know that I can hit it. If I happen to have one in my hand and I need to use it to pay for something, I know that there's a 2nd copy in there. This just coming down, cost 2, it's a condition, traded thing. I didn't read the card at all. It's attached to the main scheme, max 1 per scheme. And this increases the target value of the attached scheme by 4. That is such a big deal in single player. Like I said, in a multiplayer scenario, I'd probably drop one of these copies and make it another Heroic Intuition. But either way, that is the deck. I think for the small card pool, this actually is very thematically strong. The only other thing, as I was thinking about as I was talking through this, is I would possibly, what is that called? It's a basic support that when you play a shield card, you can exhaust it to deal, I think you deal 2 damage, the Sky Destroyer. That might also be a good card to put into here. I'm not really too afraid to play a 40-second card or just swap out Under Surveillance. I love the 2nd copy of Under Surveillance, but maybe you make it a Sky Destroyer. But either way, I think this is a fun deck. You should try it out, especially if you are a new player and you just need next steps, what you're going to do with Silk. I think this is a great next step. But let's go talk about the Obligation and the Nemesis Kit. And we are back to talk about the Nemesis and the obligation and the Nemesis set. We've got the obligation, Silk Sense Overload. The obligation you give to the Cindy Moon player and force interrupt when a card would be tucked under your identity by a player card effect, tuck it under here instead. Then if there are 2 cards here, you may discard this card, remove it from the game instead if there are 3 or more tucked cards here. So I have not had too many bad experiences with this card. For the most part, I've actually kind of lucked out, and it's always happened at a point when like the other, like I'll be playing multiplayer, somebody else will hit this obligation, give it to me, and then I will instantly get a kind of lackluster treachery that I wasn't really going to do anything with. That immediately becomes the first card. And then it just comes down to defeat a side scheme, defeat a minion, get rid of it. If I can time it so that the encounter deck shuffles and I can just say, hey, I've gotten 2, I'm just going to discard it, that's fine. I have definitely done both versions of this, where I discard it, and I've done the version where I remove from the game. And it can hamper you. I can definitely see situations where you're just looking for one more encounter card from the encounter set to kind of fix the math so that your Spider Claws can deal 4 or 5 damage, and suddenly you get this, and now you have to work even harder just to get yourself into that position where the numbers are in your favor. I think the reason why this has not hurt me too much is that I've played Silk mostly in multiplayer, and I think that Silk really thrives in multiplayer. I think that there's enough that she can do. Other players can set her up so that she can just do her thing and really thrive. And so I don't know if this has come up in single player that much. I mean, if it has not come up enough to make a really strong impression for me. So this is not that big of an inconvenience. So I can certainly see the scenario where it's going to be an inconvenience, but it has not been a huge inconvenience for me. Moving on to the Nemesis Kit, we have Morlun and the Great Hunt. So Morlun is a 1 scheme, 1 attack, 5 health minion with the elite and inheritor traits. And Morlun gets +1 scheme, +1 attack for each encounter card tucked under each identity. And when defeated, discard each copy of Hunting the Spider Bride tucked under each identity. And then the Great Hunt is a side scheme that comes in with 2 threat, and when revealed, place an additional threat here for each card tucked under each identity, and then it just gives you an extra encounter card. I have lucked out so much with this card. I think I have hit Shadow of the Past before, if I'm going to hit it at all, I hit it before turn 3. So there's a very strong chance that the Great Hunt gets 1 or 2 extra threat. I'm not a power gamer. I'm not tucking a lot of cards under there. And so all of a sudden this just comes into play and it's not that bad. On the flip side, I've seen Morlun get out of hand, but I've also seen situations where you just throw a web kick at him and he's just gone and he's not a big deal. Hunting the Spider Bride, which we'll get into in a second, also has not been a huge inconvenience, but so that part of his card also not a huge issue. I would say I understand this is a thematically great encounter set. How much they kind of foil your plans or become a speed bump, it can vary. Hasn't been that scary for me. Speaking of which, we've got the rest of the encounter set, which is 3 copies of Hunting the Spider Bride. So it is a treachery with Surge, and when revealed, if you have 4 cards tucked under your identity, discard one of those cards at random, tuck this card under your identity. Force response, after a player card effect discards this card from under an identity, that identity takes 2 damage. So here is actually what happened in a game, ironically. So hit the obligation, eventually hit Spider Bride. I think it might have been in the same turn or it might have been in back-to-back turns. Either way, this then gets tucked under my obligation and just becomes one of the 2 cards I need to get rid of. Still, the 2 damage is gonna come, it's gonna get you. But the important thing here is I don't think this is a player card. I don't know, and I could be wrong. I think we might have grim ruled it at the time, and I just 2 damage. I don't know if you actually take 2 damage from discarding Hunting the Spider Bride from underneath your obligation. Either way, this can be a scary card. It can just make it so that Morlun has more and more power. But overall, not my biggest concern. I think it's very cool that the rest of the encounter set is, the rest of the Nemesis kit is just this. But at the same time, there are so many other things that I think are threatening to Silk. And I think that they build a very thematic obligation and Nemesis kit. I just think that they're not the worst things in the world. And maybe I'm just a little nuts on there. But either way, that is Silk. I love this hero. I have a love-hate relationship, I think, a little bit with it, just because I'm not the best Silk player, but I definitely love what she's doing, and I'm so happy that she's in the game. I think she is a little bit of a curveball. I think she was a curveball in the wave. I think she was a curveball in the game. I think there's a lot of people that didn't know who Silk was outside of the minion and didn't think that she was going to be viable for a hero. I'm so happy that they made her a hero. Favorite card is probably easily Eidetic Memory. I think the tie would probably also be just the upgrades that each do their thing with the counting encounter sets to give you bonuses to your stats. But those come down to so much of being archetype dependent that I can't put them above Eidetic Memory. That's just my favorite card. But either way, that is Silk. I thank you for your time. I hope you have a great day. Next time we'll be talking about Black Panther. And I'm hoping that's sooner rather than later. I don't want to fall behind here. I got to get these done before Civil War comes out. But I also understand that the Civil War stuff got pushed back to the middle of October, so I've got a little bit of time. But either way, just, if you're new here or whatever, I talk about every hero. I'm going to try to even go back to the old heroes pre-Sinister Motives, but I also will probably be holding off on the heroes until the wave is complete. I think this wave is only going to have 4 heroes in it, so it's not going to be hopefully that long. But we still, as of recording, I don't know who the other 2 heroes are. Wonder Man's been thrown out, and I'm kind of excited for Wonder Man. I bet Hercules is the other one. None of this is important. None of the core of the video. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next one. And you're doing great. Keep it up.